Well, hello YouTube. It's me again. Welcome back to another solo ride back up to Luton. And that had me thinking, I need to get some buddies on bikes. So I'm gonna go through the process of how I actually became a licensed rider. I think it's easy enough for anyone who has any inkling or anyone who wants to get involved in doing so. So the first process that you have is called your CBT. So that's your compulsory basic training, and that will just test your proficiency to ensure that you are actually able to handle a bike such as this, slow riding, stuff like that. It just kind of helps out. So your CBT consists of half a day in a car park where they actually go through manual handling with you. They go through ensuring that you can actually maneuver the bike, that you can handle the bike. You obviously start off on a smaller 125. You can also start on a scooter as well if that's your preference. If you don't fancy a geared bike, you can actually start on a scooter. But it's all about being able to handle the bike, being able to ride, stop, start, and do that in a proficient way. And once they deem that you are worthy or you are able to, then what they will do then is actually take you out for a couple hours on the road in a real life scenario to see how you handle it on the road. So that really is your basic training. That's usually around £100 for that basic training. They will provide you with all the bike, the gear, helmet, gloves, jacket. But if you have your own, which I do recommend having your own, because these things are rank, I think it's probably better off just taking your own stuff there. Once you've done that and you will get a certificate. Once you've passed, you'll get a certificate to say yes, you are proficient. You've got 2 years where you can actually ride on that CBT, but it will just be something, I think it's up to about 50cc, but I'll put a correction if I'm wrong. And you can ride a scooter with an L plate. You must have the learner plate on your bike for those 2 years. And you will see a lot of scooters riding around with L plates. It means that they just do this CBT every 2 years. And I suppose it's a cheap way of being able to ride a bike, effectively just paying a tax every 2 years for that privilege. Yeah, so once that's done, once your CBT is done, you've got your certificate. Then you move into the next stage, which means that you have to pass your test, which is a theory test, just like what you would in a car. You'd have to pass your theory test, and again, the one I took was very similar to that of a car. I think if you are already a driver, it makes it even easier because you should already be used to most of the road signs and what hazards are and so on. So you shouldn't have too much of an issue if you are already a driver. If you aren't, then that means that you will obviously have to study and do your theory practicing as everybody else would do. Now, saying that you've passed your theory, because I know all of my friends and family who are listening to this are actually quite clever people. You then have a further 2 years on that theory, once you pass that theory test, to take your practical. Now, this is where it differs from that of the car. The practical test of a motorcycle is twofold. You actually have it called Mod 1 and Mod 2. Now, that will allow you to go to do the first part. First part is again in a car park, and it's more about maneuvers. So it consists of 8 maneuvers, and I'll probably just list them rather than going through all of them. It consists of about 8 maneuvers, which again tests your proficiency, a little bit like what you would do in a little bit like what you would do on the compulsory training, but this one you have an examiner who will test you. So stuff like slow riding, emergency braking, high speed cornering. It's just I will list them all out anyway. Now when I did mine, the first time I did it, I actually rolled I was on the 7th exercise, or seventh maneuver, and I actually rolled the throttle, and it revved when I did my emergency brake, and I actually failed because of that. Come on. Stop playing on your fucking phone, you idiot. Anyway. So, I had to do it again. But just be very wary and be careful about that. They try to take no risks. If they don't think you are ready, they will fail you. So after passing that, which was on my second attempt, I then had to do the Mod 2. Now the Mod 2 is effectively just a road ride with the instructor following you. Exactly like what you would have in a car. They will tell you to go left, right, and just observe your actions. Some of the tips I would say for that would be to ensure that you are visibly checking your mirrors, so that the examiner behind you can actually see that, because they need to know that you are aware of your surroundings always. And don't forget your shoulder checks, and also don't forget your lifesavers, which is looking all the way back. That's very, very important, because if you aren't observant, and because you are so much more exposed than when you're in a car, then that will obviously be a lot more disastrous if you were to have an accident, or if you were to have an off. So be very wary of those. Good Lord, man. So saying that you've passed your second exam, or your Mod 2, that then leaves you to going out and getting the bike of your choice. Now in my very first video I mentioned as to the reasoning. Everyone has a reason to get whatever they want to get. As mentioned before, my reasoning is that I didn't want to have to be buying multiple bikes, going up like every obviously few months, having to, okay, let's make it realistic, every 6 months, year, having to change the bike because it's no longer fits your ability. Because the more often you ride, the quicker and more experience you gain, the quicker your proficiency becomes. So you are so much better after only a few months. And I can tell, even now, after owning this for almost a year, even now I can tell that if I ride more consistently, then I feel better. I feel more confident on the bike, as opposed to riding once a month or whatever it is. Then you can tell. So now we're gonna go on the bike. What bike will you choose? Depends on what kind of bike, what kind of person you are. Do you like the bit of a racy one? Now don't forget there's a pros and cons to almost every bike. If you like the R6 type bikes where you're in the super sport mode, again, your body will adapt to it. But for me, when I rode it, my wrists hurt because you put in quite a bit of pressure on your wrist because you're leaning quite far forward. And that kind of, for me, isn't a bike that I could have as a daily or as a bike you can ride every day. For me, it would have to be a second bike. It'd have to be a second bike, and not can't be my primary and only bike. It would kill my wrists. You can then go for the sports tourer like I have. So effectively, what I have here is the Kawasaki Ninja engine, but in a more upright position. So that it's like the best of both worlds. So you get the speed, but you also get a little bit of comfort as well. And trust me, on a longer journey, you will be more than thankful for having that little bit of comfort. And I'm sure my cousin Mackin can probably tell you. Well, I suppose he's got used to it by now, but doing a couple-hour journey on a sports tourer, I don't think I fancy that much, to be honest. So, yeah. You can now also go for the big boys, the Harley types, these kind of bikes. You can also go for those. And that's a proper cruising, comfortable bike. Now that I actually don't mind having that as another backup bike if you're going a long journey down to, say, Brighton, or a much longer journey. Then most definitely I would say let's go for that. Anyway, so back to the topic of why we're actually having this conversation is that I need some of you guys to get on bikes so that we can all go out for a bit of a group ride. As much as I love having the bike, I think it would probably enhance the experience just having people with you who are also enthusiasts. I think that would more than likely enhance it, and I would absolutely love it. Now, when it comes to costs, there are a few things obviously you have to take into account, pretty much exactly like a car. This is a little bit of a negative, but it's, do not skimp on the gear that you're going to get. So i.e. your jackets, your lower protection, your gloves. As you can see, the gloves that I'm wearing is fully armored, allowing you here to protect you in case you fall over. Any kind of rocks that kick up from the cars in front of you and hit your wrist, trust me, would not be pleasant. But these are also quite breathable, so you can see holes in there. So it's quite a thick glove for summer, but I prefer that. And your jacket, now the one I'm wearing is a textile one. It's meant to be waterproof and again light, so for the summer. You also got leathers as well, and that will allow you even more protection because it's armored as well. Now all of these have an average cost. Like for instance, the jacket I have was only about £60. The gloves was probably about 20. The leather jacket though, because this was a good quality one, it was about £250. Helmet, now this is the one I would say I'd probably say is the one that you would have to be you just have to close your eyes and pay the man at the counter. But buy one that is a well-known, reputable brand. Not saying that they're all are gonna be, but at least you have a better chance. You don't want the one coming from, I don't know, China or something. I think that would just be, I don't know, dangerous. Let's just say I don't think they all are fully tested or as tested as they should be. So get one that's brand. I would probably say a good average price of about $250 would be where I would be at. Now, I mean, I've got my very first helmet was probably about £80, but I only did that for the CBT until I knew I was very serious about biking, and then I got myself the Schuberth C30, and that it's obviously a little bit more expensive, but I know that hopefully I'm more protected. Also, it's a much better quality because the wind noise and everything is cut down dramatically inside of the Schuberth one. So that is something that, you know, I mean, the better quality that, the more expensive that it is, hopefully the better quality, and then you get a lot better helmets for the money that you pay. The last one I think as well would probably be your boots. Again, don't skimp on the boots. You need something that will protect your ankles in case you come off. So be very, very careful, be very wary. Again, average price for a good pair of boots probably about 100, 150. But the thing is, as much as these are all costly items, don't forget they actually will last you a considerable amount of time. So be aware of that. It's a big cost up front, but it will last you as long as you don't come off. So that's probably the only big negative upfront cost right there, is when acquiring or when trying to get a motorcycle. As for then obviously you have the insurance. Now my insurance is for fully comp, which is everything, including Europe travel and breakdown from home and everything else. Fully comp is about £200, and that covers me for absolutely everything. Now, with all that negative talk of all that upfront cost, there are a few costs which you would be much happier with on a bike, such as the petrol tank. It cost me about 11 quid to fill from empty. That gives you about over 100 miles, which I'm more than happy with. Servicing, it's really around oil filter, and the oil filter, I think that costs maybe about £20 or so. So again, very little cost there when coming to servicing, which obviously is once a year. I actually recently just changed the brakes all round, and again that was a total cost of about 56 quid for all the brake pads and the brake fluid. So very, very, very small costs for a bike service as opposed to that of a car. So I'm more than happy to do those even on a more regular basis. more regular basis than a car, that's for sure. And I think finally, I think that's it really, isn't it? And just gotta put the end to the video. Please comment and subscribe. Let me know how I can improve this.
Sky man, why him like the team that I would never leave behind? I really gotta ease off the wine.